One of the biggest reasons people stop drawing is not the lack of talent, it's the blank page. The blank page activates too much analysis, the left hemisphere of the brain starts judging every line. Is this correct? Is this good enough? And because every mark feels isolated, people quickly lose confidence and stop enjoying the process. But when the page already contains texture, atmosphere, and visual harmony, something changes. The right hemisphere, the more intuitive and creative side, becomes more active. Instead of judging, the brain begins discovering. You start seeing shapes, landscapes, faces, movement, and light. Drawing becomes exploration rather than pressure. That's the core idea behind my Spark a Sketch workbooks. The pages are designed to remove the fear of starting. Even the simplest pencil marks immediately feel connected to something beautiful. Your brain reads this visual coherence as success, which naturally builds confidence and keeps creativity flowing. That's why my students improved so quickly in my masterclasses offline and online. When people stop fearing mistakes, they continue creating, and success often comes from continuing without losing enthusiasm. With these workbooks, you never fight the blank page again, because every page already invites you to create. Now let me show you two ways of using this creative tool. First way will be using the background as support for plein air or reference drawing, and second, using the Pareidolia effect to train your imagination and pattern recognition. I'm using these tools, the pencils and paint marker to work in this workbook, and the rubber here. Let me explain. The first way is when we use the patterned backgrounds as a support for drawing from reference. We'll take a picture to copy, to make a drawing, just a simple picture made on iPhone, and we'll try to find the best pattern to make it, to draw it. So this pattern, it looks quite good, and just to say that all the patterns have been created from nature. So I put many layers of natural patterns, and in the end I got this sketchbook with these pages. We'll take this reference photo to copy. I'm trying to find the best patterns or shapes that can support my painting. As you see, it already has pattern of bark, and we can use this. So I took the lightest part just to make sure I will preserve some light space for bark highlights. And I'm using, as you see, the lines from the pattern. It's always hard to make a proper line, natural line. When you draw, for example, a mountain, then you normally, even professional painters, they draw like pyramids, like triangles, not the natural pattern. So I'm using these patterns here to create first outlines. I'm using HB pencil, and as you see, every line already drawn looks quite nice because we have the support background patterns. It's not the black on the white paper. It's already like as if painted or drawn picture. I'm creating I'm using just a part of this page for this particular drawing. I'm not using the full page, and this is a good thing for this sketchbook, that you can use every part of the page. And now I'm outlining the shadows and branches, which have a lot of contrast. And basically, when you copy nature from plein air, or when you copy from reference photo. Then you see the contrast, the dark, the shadows. That's what defines the picture. So for example, this pattern pages, it's enough to place shadows and contrasts just to have first picture, just to have this impression of the picture. And as you see, the background, the pattern background already looks like something there, like forest or whatever. So you can use these patterns for every picture. Okay, I finished the outlines, and now I'm adding final proportions. And as you see, I'm changing direction of the branches accordingly to this pattern page. And be sure that every picture that you paint, you can find some places that's similar to your picture, so you can just emphasize the shadows, contrast, and then you have very nice drawing. And every moment when you draw, every line you make, it looks nice, so your mood doesn't fall down and you still have good motivation to continue. And as you know, that's what we need to create. So we need to be in the state of flow, not in the state of fear. So this page supports you by every line. And now I'm adding the frame just to understand which part of the page I will be using. And the next step will be adding the halftones and tones. So I analyze whether this tree is darker than the background or lighter. So as you see in this part, the tree is darker. So I can just start adding shadows and tones to this tree to have this first impression. So I speed up the video here just to spare some time, and once you need full video, I will post it later. So these contrasts will be enough for us to see, to understand the shape of the picture. And as you see, it looks nice. Otherwise, on blank page, it could be seen like with a lot of contrast. And if there is a lot of contrast, it can look not like we expect it to look. I'm adding now basic shadows, dark branches with the same pencil. And every time I make a new step, I will change the pencil. So the best pencil to use in this workbook is 4B or 8B. It's quite dark and still you can regulate it. But you can also use ink pen. And then later, once we need some highlights, we can use paint marker with ivory white, and it will give us highlights in those places where the page is printed with the background tone. So now is the third step, and I will darken the background in those places where the background is darker. As you see, right to the tree, the background is a little bit darker, so I'm using like any kind of texture to darken the space. And then later, once needed, I can use the rubber to lighten those places if I need it. So I left some space for the branch. It is lighter. And the grass below is a little bit lighter, so I will leave this place lighter. And so step by step I'm darkening all the tones on the picture, trying to make drawing as close as it's possible to the picture. And normally when I do plein air drawings, it takes like 10-20 minutes for one sketch, like this sketch. And it's quite fun because you always have support, you always understand that you have these background patterns that can help you with the lines, with just some objects that you can guess. So I'm adding some branches and continuing darkening the background. As you see, the tree becomes almost the same color. So now I'm lightening some space, some trees in the background, and switching to 4B pencil to make shadows in the bark and emphasize some accents for creating more natural view, because it's always important to have drawing full of tones, different tones. Yeah, these pattern pages help with that. And the paper of this book is quite good for sketching. It's not white, completely white. It is, as you see on the left, it is a little bit ivory. So you don't have this bright white, which normally it looks very contrast to the lines that you make. Step by step, so I'm adding some shadows, some darkening, some space, creating more volume for the tree. I'm using normally classic hedge, but you can use any texture, any hedges that you know and that you like and prefer. The cast shadow, of course, it's gonna be darker, closer to the tree, and lighter with more distance. So now you can see already there is a contrast, there is a volume, and still some work to do. And you see that like the pattern page is almost not seen anymore. It's already covered with pencil. So in the end, if you show this sketch to anyone, nobody will guess that you used any patterns underneath. And it makes sense to use them because, as you know, as let's say neuroscience shows that our brain, it's a prediction machine. So it's always nice to have something that you can base your drawing upon, and it's always better for activating the right hemisphere, because right hemisphere normally is activated when you have uncertainty, and when you have uncertainty and the right brain part starts working and creating some harmony. So I would say, I even wrote it in the sketchbook, that the power of beauty unfolds, reveals itself with uncertainty. When we see some complex structures, we start to predict them, and our brain uses our memory to predict it the best way. It's like when when you sing, then you can better think when you have some music playing in the background. So the same trick is here. You have the support, and under this support you can of course create more, because when right hemisphere is working, it feels more natural and like in real life, less space for mistakes. So if you cut the rubber just to have the sharp edge, you can create these thin lines which look like branches. So I'm creating the branches that are in front of the tree, that are closer to us. This is foreground. And later I will add highlights on the bark to make the final accents on the picture. And the trees in the background, they are a little bit lighter, so I always can clear space there just to have this lighter trees. So you can always play with this background. It's creativity. It's like play. So it's always like, for example, if you watercolor painting, so you can just take few colors, like 2-3 colors, and paint the whole painting, and then you have a lot of fun because you're experimenting. You know, our creative child likes experiments and likes new playgrounds. So this is a nice playground for those who start, and especially for professionals. So I'm using it everywhere because we don't know all the time which part of brain is activated. So if it's left hemisphere, it tries to construct everything, think logically, and of course we cannot predict all the shadows, everything logically. It's a lot of computation, so even computer is doing it, but it's hard. So much better activate right hemisphere and use the patterns to predict, to see, and to feel if it's natural, if it's good. So I'm almost finishing this picture, and as you see, there are no patterns seen anymore in the background of the picture. It's just a drawing already with many deep shadows, half tones, and so on. It's actually fun. I have like a small sketchbook just for the same reason. When I'm jogging, I'm using it just to make, because you know, when you paint, when you observing something without judgment, so then you start relaxing, feel less anxiety, and this is the good way to calm your mind and to learn to observe without judgment, because you don't care about tree, it's just beautiful. So you observe beautiful tree and you feel yourself with this state of flow. When you are filled with all this energy, then you want to express it, and so you do it the best way, and you express through art, any art or music. Okay, in the final stage is adding highlights. As you see on the picture, on the reference picture, there are a lot of small highlights on the bark, and this pencil is quite good because it's not completely white, it's a little bit ivory, so it's lighter than the page tone, and it's quite good to use for portraits or other objects when you draw, to make highlights on the water. And to emphasize, for example, here some branches in the foreground before the tree, just to have more space between and to have a little bit dryly and some parts of grass. So now we have like middle ground, background and foreground. There are a lot of highlights above, so I'm trying to stick to the reference photo. But in this, even in this stage, it's already done, it's already finished. And yeah, the most enjoyment you get when you make plein air sketch. That's the best what you can do, because you enjoy the nature and you enjoy the process, even if you not paint with colors. So this is also quite interesting. So you see that like these white lines, ivory white lines, they're lighter than the background, just a little bit lighter, and they fill the picture with more volume. As I said, that's the first way to use this sketchbook. You take a picture or choose any reference photo which you would like to draw, and then you find any pattern that is close to that drawing. There are many patterns here, around 60 patterns in this sketchbook, so you can use between them for any landscape or portrait. Actually, all the materials are applied quite good, and you see it's the picture, the paper is quite good quality. Okay, it's finished. So time to sign. And I will explain the second way to use this sketchbook just with the next move. Let's say it closer. So it looks like this. Okay, let's proceed to the second way. I will start with a famous quote: "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Albert Einstein. In this part of the video, I'll be talking about second method, how to use the sketchbook, and especially using Pareidolia to train imagination and pattern recognition. So we have our brain as a pattern prediction machine, and by looking for shapes inside abstract patterns and emphasizing them, the brain activates the natural Pareidolia effect, the ability to recognize meaningful forms in randomness. When we look at something abstract, our brain immediately starts rebuilding the real world from it. I already see a landscape here with mountains and a tree. That's one of the deepest purposes of art, not to copy reality perfectly, but to give just enough clues so the viewer can recreate the image and believe it. A watercolor sunset feels real not because the paint truly shines like the sun, it doesn't. There is no pigment bright enough to become sunlight itself. But the mind completes the illusion. The viewer finishes the painting inside their imagination. So now I'm seeing here on this random page, I'm seeing here a mountain. So I'm trying to emphasize the lines that I see to create outline of the mountain, and I see already some snow parts on that mountain. And as you see, the line is not like triangle, it's different. Like in nature, it has a lot of turns and a lot of already tones there. So for me, what I see here is a mountain, and I can place below a lake, and then I see a tree to the right, but okay, let's do it later. So first of all, the mountain. So again, I'm outlining the shadows, the stones, the shape of the mountain, and these patterns help me with that. I'm already seeing, by the way, the lake underneath, and so it's going to be a background, and check the line, the outline. And yeah, here I'm seeing some kind of tree, old tree. I like trees. So I'm creating an outline for the tree. Tree will be on the foreground. And again, I took the B pencil just to make very thin outlines, barely seen. And already I feel like it's looking good. And I have a lot of turns that are more natural than if we do it with the left hemisphere of the brain. So this sketchbook, it trains to see possibilities before they exist. So we try to predict what we see. And instead of reacting to just a blank page, your mind learns to complete patterns naturally and creatively. It definitely reduces the fear and activates curiosity. I didn't know that if you search in the YouTube for in neuroscience field for amygdala brain part, you will see only that it's responsible for fear prediction, for threats. But actually amygdala is divided. There are two amygdala parts, left and right, and the right part, amygdala in the right hemisphere, it's responsible for curiosity, and it works like toggle. So when fear works, then curiosity doesn't work. When curiosity works, then fear doesn't work. So to get rid of fear, anxiety, the best way is to activate curiosity. I'm using this the right part, not the full page again, to guess the landscape, and it already has like natural lines. You see this tree and some leaves, some branches, and I'm using the patterns underneath. Of course, those patterns were not meant to show mountain. That's what I see at this moment, and probably you will see other shapes there and you can improve them. So this is very individual. Everybody sees like different shapes according to their experience. Yeah, this way of drawing actually is more about discovery. It's not like you're inventing something from nothing. It's about like revealing hidden forms that are your, and so you can express your individuality, personality through revealing those hidden patterns. Now I'm darkening some shadows in the mountain to reveal its shape better. I'm using classical hedge, but yeah, of course you can use any hedges for this. And I'm still using B pencil because it's background and I don't need to darken it. I will darken the foreground. This is a good exercise, a kind of mental exercise for imagination. It's like training muscles, in a gym. So you train your brain, your visual processing to predict shapes. And the most interesting that you don't have any reference. So you predict the shapes and you feel them with your heart. So that's why they look much more natural. And also you train, exercise to connect what is not connected. As you know, everything is connected, so you try to unite everything, and this is quite good exercise as well. And interesting, if you do it like in the morning, then you have this cognitive priming, so you try to guess all the patterns, and when you go outside and you see any stains on the walls or whatever uncertain landscapes or stains, your brain will try to draw them and to create some meaningful shapes. So if you do it in the morning, then you start perceiving more things and put your attention on different things, and sometimes it solves the problem with triggering on things that we don't like. When we see shadows, lights, contrasts, and we draw it constantly, then our brain starts seeing beauty, and that fills us. And of course, then we want to express it. So Leonardo da Vinci once said that the painter has the universe in his mind and hands. That's why, when we activate imagination, we are capable of creating anything, even without reference, without being in plein air. Now I don't have any reference, just creating something that I've seen before, maybe not seen, but I've seen those shapes, and I'm trying to reconstruct them on the paper. Actually, when we stop labeling objects, naming them, then the brain becomes free to see new possibilities inside patterns, let's say. And it's always a surprise what we're going to see. Let me change the pencil. So I'm darkening this area. To make the background even darker. I still have a lot of space for the foreground. Emphasizing some lines of the mountain. This is a lot of fun doing this. It's like meditation. You create something, you exercise your brain, and you just enjoy the process. I found one quote from Edouard Manet. He said that there are no lines in nature, only areas of color. In our case, it's tone, areas of color, one against another. So we are just trying not to make many lines. Instead, we are just covering the spaces to create different areas with different tone. It's always like that. If you see the tree, it can be lighter than the background and darker than the sky, and sometimes it's lighter than the sky and darker than the background, so it's not the same tone all alone. So it's always interesting to see different, observe different areas and understand how they relate to the background. I'm randomly just now adding leaves because I've seen them there, so I don't have any sequence, particular sequence how to do it. It's like how the brain works. When I see something, then I just emphasize it, and of course applying some knowledge how to create volume, how to create shape. And I see that the better result will be if I make the foreground tree darker than the background, and it's always like that. It's mostly always like that. So you have light background. You see, I just saw here a branch, so I'm just creating some lines that emphasize it. And I'm darkening some space. I'm still using B pencil. I still have a lot of space to darken. Sometimes it's better not to make one line, but few lines. Then again, our brain will catch the right one, and when somebody will watch it, will decide which line is more natural. So I'm gonna use this area, not the full page, because it will take more time if I use it. Although I can of course predict a lot of things. I see like on the left side there is it looks like sun there, or clouds, and so I can draw some clouds there. So I'm not doing here one line, I just create a lot of what I see, like a lot of different lines. Already using the darkest tone of this pencil, and the background mountains, they now look more distant and lighter, and still the colors, the tones are connected. And this is, I don't know, like shoreline. I still don't know. I think it's like the foreground, the land, and behind there is a lake there. Let's see, maybe I'll make the lake a little bit lighter. Yeah, it's really a state of flow. You see how the page is easy to draw. I like this paper, and the sound of hatching and how it goes. And it's easy to rub off everything and to have the, oh, I see here a stone, just a rock, I think. No, it's gonna be middle ground. So I will speed up this process because it's like 1 hour hatching. So you see I'm adding, making it darker, adding more tones to the tree, emphasizing some moments, and adding leaves, what I can see and predict, guess on the picture. You know, it's one Henry Bergson once said, like, the eye sees only what the mind is prepared to comprehend. The more you train your imagination in prediction, the more hidden structures and ideas you begin to notice everywhere. So I'm still darkening the background a little bit more. And the lake also. And I'm darkening a little bit the sky, because I will add then later the snow and it will appear, of course, lighter, just to have this nice contrast. And again, as you see, the patterns are disappearing because they are lighter, and the drawing reveals itself. I have a second version of this workbook with the patterns a little bit darker, different patterns, and it's also very good to draw scenes like in the evening, you know, or portraits is quite good. So I'm adding some branches going up, and we have nice background and foreground. And even more, I'm darkening the foreground just to have on the lake lighter. It appears now lighter. And I'm still using B pencil and different variations of edges just to vary all of them, because nature always offers us different patterns and different variations. Let's say instead of forcing rigid outlines on the blank page, we learn to discover shapes from natural patterns, and it creates some authentic, our personal sketches, because they're connected to our memory and what we feel, natural or not, we see it and we apply it on the paper. Adding some shadows under the mountain, that's what I feel. I think, yeah, in nature it's like that there are some shadows underneath the mountain, so to separate it from water makes sense to darken the tone. I'm still free in the lines what I do, because I have this pattern support, so I don't need to think a lot about my strokes, how I which lines I apply. I'm just totally in creative process. And you know, sometimes in creative process you use everything, you use sponge, everything, just to create different textures, and so that when you see this picture it appears more natural. Okay, it's time to apply the paint marker. So I will emphasize the snow and some highlights and maybe some branches on the picture. You see, it's a little bit lighter, but still it's not completely white. And this is now lighter than the sky, so you have this nice effect of snow. And also I just get snow in the picture because there are like some areas lighter, and it's like it was already a mountain there. For me, I feel already this landscape and I'm already there. And you can use this paint marker to correct some places where you don't like the dark areas that you did, because you can even draw above this marker. So this white paint, it's acrylic paint, works very nice like paper. So you can correct your drawing many times once needed. And I'm just adding highlights on the snow and some snow parts that are visible but not too much, so I'm just making it lighter. Especially this part, it's a nice contrast between the tree and the mountain. And you can say this is kind of landscape inspired by patterns, because there was no reference, I don't use anything, just to understand, to reconstruct the tree or mountains. So this way you can say you create something, your own picture, your own drawing. Artists, by the way, they always use different textures for in creative process. So, and yeah, and Da Vinci once wrote that if you like short of ideas and you don't have some particular view what to draw, just look at the stains on the wall, and your imagination will start working. And now I'm adding lighter branches in front of the tree. Yeah, by the way, this you can use also watercolor paint in this sketchbook. It's not specific paper, so not the best paper to use for watercolor, but for it applies well, and for sketches, just to understand the color relations or which color will fit this particular drawing, then you can add some watercolor and it's applied well, and yeah, you can use then later to create your big painting. So you use the sketchbook as for generating ideas and to create composition, get natural lines, and see how the tone relationship is built, so which tones relate to each tones, and then later you just add some watercolor paint there, and then you have your color hammer. So in this sketch you can use to create a bigger painting inspired by nature. Yeah, I used only natural patterns to create this sketchbook, so I normally observe a lot of patterns, so I make always pictures of them, and then when you layer them all together, then you have a lot of prompts for your brain to create. Yeah, it's like our brain is like artificial intelligence. It needs prompts to give some results. So if you have prompts like patterns, then the brain tries to get from memory shapes, and it does it with the best quality, and you express it with your drawing or painting. And you don't need to struggle on the black canvas or black paper, blank paper, just thinking which line which will be the best, because we never do better lines when we construct them, because it's a lot of factors that we have to think about to create a meaningful, natural composition. So the best way is to let this complex task be resolved with your brain and right hemisphere, because it's so creative, and yeah, it activates a lot of things, and visual processing will then make you see more and recognize more patterns and become more creative, even if you do not paint or if you do not draw. So I'm playing now with the background. I think it should be lighter, although I thought it should be darker, but now it's good. So actually you can also smudge the graphite on this paper to have smoother surfaces with a finger. And now this refinement stage, so I'm just looking where to add some more accents and to make it even more realistic. So I never thought that the tree would be this shape, but all the patterns, they just offer this line, so I'm using it. And by the way, you can turn around the sketchbook and see it from the other side, and experiment even more. You can create like small areas sketches, or bigger, or this square size, full size. So now I'm using the 8B pencil, which is the darkest one for me for now here. And even the shape of leaves, so it's already in pattern, so I'm just using it to emphasize. I think this mountain a little bit dark, but okay, let's leave it like this. And in the middle, like in the mountain area and the tree, I don't see background anymore, it's only my lines. So for example, this sketch I can take some watercolors and add just a light layer of watercolor, and then I have already a painting. And if I want to create a big painting, so I can use it as a reference. And this is the creative process in which you don't struggle a lot, because yeah, let's say the shapes are given already and everybody sees her own shapes. Okay, I think I'm finishing already this drawing. I will not cover all the page, and this is enough, I think, to present this method, how you can create any ideas from patterns. Yeah, if you like this sketchbook and you want to try, it's available on Amazon, and it's like 2-3 days delivery. It's easy to get it. So the link I will leave in the description. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to make more lessons for you. Just write in the comments and subscribe. I'll be posting more information, more lessons. Thank you for your attention. Have a good day.